Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Andrew Bell, who is the chairman of Regency Mines plc. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Pretty good so far.
Well, it's been a good day for your company on the stock exchanges, and that's all based around today's news, which is the update on the US coal projects. Now, in an earlier interview, you said that you're going to be going after 3 assets, and today it looks like you've secured the second one. Could you tell us a bit more about the project there with Vali Carbon Corporation, please?
Yes, we've identified an asset that our partner has secured and that is going to be transferred into Valley Carbon. And we would regard it as being rather larger in that the seams appear to be thicker and the overall area is greater.
So in regards to the sort of due diligence work that you've done there, and in regards obviously to the 20% shareholding, how would you compare it to the Rosa Mine?
Well, there are engineering studies done on it and reserve reports, but where these are done for the purpose of an ongoing operation. And so we've got that on the surface mining area and then subsurface and several reports, and we've got reports on each individual seam, and we have maps of them all. So a lot of the technical work has been done, and figures are quoted there for what they call reserves. But this work was not done for the public, and when you release things to the public, you have to be doing it in accordance with one of the published standards, like this, the CIM standard, which is known as 43101, National Instrument 43101 in Canada, or a JORC in Australia, or the sort of 3M here. And that requires a amplification of the financial analysis slightly, and a declaration of independence and the statement, this is a 43101. Now that hasn't been done in the case of this asset. It wouldn't take much to use all that information and the reserve reports that have been put together and make that of it. But as it hasn't been done, I ought not to quote reserve figures to you because I couldn't put reserve figures in an RNS.
So in relation to size-wise, you've obviously mentioned that it is bigger than the Rosa Mine. Would that
we are clear in our view that it is very substantial asset, yes.
Okay, so very clear wording there. Thank you for that, Andrew. That's one of the key questions a shareholder has asked. So the other thing, obviously, in relation to Regency Mines is a statement that you've made today, is that you've become cash flow neutral to positive. Could you touch further on that?
Well, obviously, at Rosa, once you start washing coal, you no longer have to put more money in because it is it's generating revenues sufficient to cover the basic costs, and that point I think has been passed, quite well passed, and so the money that we put in to get our stake, well, we don't have to put any more in. That's it, and now it just under its own steam with internally generated cash and with the equipment already there on site, either owned or hired in, it can start producing coal. So it's onwards and upwards from here. But it should be throwing off cash from here rather than requiring it. And that, from our point of view, that is a much more important point than talking about profitability. Once something starts throwing off cash, yes, the profitability should follow and be reportable later. But it's a really important that we can start producing and selling and banking money each month.
In relation to, obviously, the washing of the coal, you are currently doing that at the rate of 125 tonnes per hour, and you said that the work there is continuing as scheduled. Could you tell us what the sort of forward working program is for that processing unit?
Yeah, it's the plant capacity is 125 tons per hour. I don't think we'd run it at over 100 tons per hour, and we're also not going to run it flat out because of the wear and tear that we don't want to incur washing other people's coal, some of which may be lower standard and have more material in it that would damage or cause earlier replacement of the parts. So we're doing enough washing to generate cash and keep the thing going, and while we prepare to start mining and selling our own coal.
In relation to this third potential project, could you expand at all on that?
Yes, we have agreement in principle on that project, and we're just waiting for some background on it to have a look at, and then we'd expect to be able to say more. But that, whereas the first two are things that would come into production very quickly, or coming into production, the third one is one which will take a few months to of work before anything can happen. So it would be a very substantial, very large, very long life project, but one that does require a 6-9 month time frame to bring it into production.
In relation to Mumbai then, what is the plan going forward with that project? Is it to wait further for the nickel prices to rise, or are you looking to potentially just stick with the primary projects based around coal?
We've seen how quickly sentiment changes in a number of commodities. In another company we're involved with, we had manganese that a couple of years ago was deeply out of favour, even a year and a half ago perhaps, deeply out of favour, and you wouldn't have been able to raise money to do anything with it. And a few months later it was up several times, and flavour of the month really popular. Where it stands today, it is still about 170% of its low price at the beginning of last year. In the case of coal, you have something similar, is that a couple of years ago, even perhaps a year ago, even perhaps before the presidential election, it would have been extremely difficult to raise any money for coal projects. What you have seen in the last day or two is Warrior Coal, that's also in the Warrior Coal Basin, where we are with the Rosa Alabama project, announcing that it's seeking to raise $100 million of new capital. And I expect that the market will throw this money at it because sentiment has changed.
Indeed, sentiment is changing around a lot of projects, and another project that you've got on the burner coming up soon is your Westport IPO. How is that progressing?
The Westport IPO is progressing, and I think that we would be hoping that by about May that would be listed. I know that the team there is working hard on it. They have to send their draft prospectuses to the UK LA for comment, and then there's a period of I think it's 10 days they have to wait to get the comments back, and each time they get the comments they have to respond to them, and that ping pong continues for a while until everyone is satisfied, assuming they are satisfied, and then we hope that the listing will proceed and it'll be on the markets and trading. But of course, that's Bed Methane, and that's in Oregon. And one thing that you should not forget is that the areas in the Appalachians where we're looking at coal, in particular in Alabama, this is where Bed Methane really started. And so we may be looking at coal in our license areas now, but the prospect for Bed Methane tomorrow is a very real one.
Thank you for that
Well,
update, Andrew. Is there anything further that you'd like to add?
but I hope that we are proceeding in a conservative way. We're taking interests, we're getting to know, working with our partners, initially in projects which are very easy and that are going to produce cash flow, but with some exposure to things that could be much bigger and will take a few more months to get into operation. But the thing that we do consider to be important is to, in this premium sector of metallurgical coal, from the best addresses, to be building up a footprint that is significant. And I think we're well on our way to doing that. And the progress has been remarkably fast since we started looking at this last year.
Just one thing further to touch upon then. What are the expected news items and what rough timescale can you put on them?
Clearly we're going to have a stream of news in relation to coal in the United States. We will have some news on the Carson Energy and the listing process there, and then on the process of bringing those wells back into production and linking them up to the pipeline. And I would have thought that also we'd be getting some news flow from Horse Hill, from our stake there, which is of course onshore UK oil. So the next 3 or 4 months should see plenty of news. I don't think there's going to be a shortage of that.
Andrew Bell, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for answering shareholders' questions.
A great pleasure. Thank you.